He was right. I was wrong.
Woo! Thank you, Rick. You're the best.
Sorry that took so long.
No problem. We're good. Thanks.
All right.
All right, board. We are now live.
Carol, are you back?
Hello.
All right,
We are streaming live to YouTube.
Good afternoon, everybody. Are we ready to get started? Any other impediments or anything? Well, I will call the meeting of the Asheville City of Asheville Civil Service Board meeting to order. It is 2:39 and I can call the roll. Mr. Devereaux?
I'm here.
Mr. Escovitz?
Present.
Mr. Hahn?
Here.
Mr. Webb?
So there's still, here's where it'll show if anybody else is calling in. So this is our number.
So has everyone looked at the agenda that was sent out?
We'll just keep checking that.
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Carol,
See?
I move, Alan
Rick fixes
Escovitz, by the
everything.
way. I move that the agenda be accepted as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
So yeah,
Rick
when you need Rick,
It's been moved and seconded to
Rick
proceed
Farley.
with the agenda as printed. All in favor, say aye.
Yep.
Aye. Aye.
Any
and
opposes?
just tell him
Hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda, but.
something's
I
wrong.
will-
Madam Chair, I
Civil Service Board
apologize.
starts at 2:30
Because
and
the
then
state of
I
emergency
think
has been
I
extended
wonder which
on
one
to
it's on.
January
Like
5th. We
6
still have to
HR,
follow
he's
all of those sort of Byzantine
So
remote
then you can
meeting
find it
rules and do a roll call vote on all.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
And that's
Okay,
what happens.
well, it has been moved and seconded to accept the agenda as presented. Mr. Devereaux,
Aye.
Mr. Escovitz,
Aye.
Mr.
Do
Hahn,
what?
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Yeah.
Aye.
So
and
much
I vote
easier.
aye. Any abstentions, any other further comments? Other than the vote carries. And I will take a moment of personal privilege and say for the record that we will welcome back Mr. Hahn and Mr. Escovitz, who were sworn in just before the meeting was called to order. So congratulations and welcome back, gentlemen.
So we can send her,
So the first
updated part of
order
it, this was like
matter is the
comment.
approval of the
we end up
minutes.
having a caller. There's
They were sent out, it was from the September 2nd meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those?
Yes. Yes.
I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Alan Escovitz, I so move that the minutes from the September 2nd meeting be approved by the board.
Is there a second?
Mike Allen, I second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as they've been presented. Is there any discussion or questions, corrections? Hearing none, we can vote. Mr. Devereaux,
Aye.
Mr. Escovitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the minutes have been approved. Thank you. Are there any updates or reports that we need to hear about? Anything from the city? Okay,
No, nothing at this time.
okay, thank you. Is there any unfinished business? Okay, hearing none, I guess we had to do the swearing in. We hadn't done that, so we did take care of that unfinished business. We can go down to the new business, and that would be the selection of the 5th member. Mr. Escovitz?
I'd like to move that Rick Devereaux be reappointed by the Civil Service Board for a new term.
Is there a second?
I'll
Mike
second that.
Allen.
Correct, or Mike.
It's been moved and seconded that Mr. Devereaux be reappointed. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to say that I honored and would be willing
to serve in that capacity for a second term if you guys so deemed it.
Okay,
Rick, we'd be honored to have you on the board again.
absolutely. Well, if there's no further discussion, we can call for the vote. Mr. Devereaux,
I will abstain from this vote.
Mr. Eskovitz,
Affirm. Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So with 4 ayes and 1 abstention, the vote carries. And Mr. Devereaux, thank you. You're back with us as well. Yay.
Thank you. Great
Honored to have you.
to be wanted.
And the next will be the Asheville Fire Department minimum requirements for promotional process. Chief Burnett, I think this will be you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to see the board again. Good afternoon. We have a number of recommended minimum promotional requirements that we would like for the board to review and hopefully approve. I'm going to share my screen. Is that visible to the board?
And it matters, and the everything was also emailed to us. So if you can't see the screen, you should have received an email with the presentation that for Chief Burnett.
Excellent, thank you. So what this document is a document that this board has seen before, and this is the entire career ladder for the Asheville Fire Department and all of the minimum requirements for someone within the fire department to participate in a promotional process. Each of these positions have been reviewed by our Promotional Criteria Advisory Committee, which, as a reminder, is an employee committee that makes recommendations on minimum requirements, and they have reviewed these. And what I wanted to talk about was the minimum requirements that are in red. So we will start with assistant fire marshal, and the requirement that has the strike through that's in red, that's the current requirement as approved by the Civil Service Board. What the Promotional Criteria Advisory Committee has recommended, and I fully support, is to change that requirement to current rank of senior firefighter. So currently, for someone to participate in the promotion process for assistant fire marshal, they have to already be the rank of senior firefighter, and they have to be in that position for 2 years. What we have found is those additional 2 years of experience as a firefighter did not give that candidate a lot of additional experience in what the work of the assistant fire marshal, what the work of an assistant fire marshal does. So an assistant fire marshal primarily does fire inspections. And those 2 years as a senior firefighter, no fire inspections are done. And so we have a number of folks that are interested in going the route of an assistant fire marshal. And so we felt that it would increase the pool of folks that could participate in that process by only having that requirement that's relevant, and that's being the rank of senior firefighter. The committee went on, because as this board is familiar with, we have talked at least twice over the years about the assistant fire marshal position in general and the difficulties that we have with recruitment. We typically do not have a lot of applicants. We've gone external a number of times. And so what we have come to this board before is the ability to, if we don't have enough interested applicants within the fire department, then to take 3 of those requirements, these 3 down here in red, technical rescuer, fire and life safety educator 1, and CPS technician, and make those preferred and required after promotion. The benefit of that, if somebody doesn't already have that, first and foremost, those are not essential to the primary duties of an assistant fire marshal. They can do that job very well without having those additional certifications. Yes, sir, Mr. Escovitz.
Chief, can you tell me what a CPS technician is? What does CPS stand for?
Yes, sir. Thank you for, and I apologize for the jargon. That is a child passenger safety technician. And so what a CPS technician does is it educates the public into how to safely restrain children in motor vehicles.
Thank you.
So those 3 certifications are important, but they're not important to begin doing the job. And so we felt that we could increase the applicant pool by making those preferred and required after promotion if we did not have that. And if it meets the needs of the board, I'll go through each of these changes because they are very similar, and then ask the board for how they would like to proceed after that, if that's okay. So similarly to assistant fire marshal, fire investigator is another position that we oftentimes have difficulty with recruitment. And so similarly, just like assistant fire marshal, changing that minimum requirement to the current rank of senior firefighter instead of having to be a senior firefighter for 2 years. And then similarly, if we don't have enough applicants, changing these 5 requirements: technical rescuer, fire life safety educator, North Carolina CFIT, and CFIT stands for Certified Fire Investigator Technician, or National Fire Academy Fire Investigation Course, the Child Passenger Safety Technician, and Youth Fire Setter 1. Again, those are important certifications for folks to have that are in that position, but not essential as they begin that job. They certainly can get that after they're promoted. Similarly, fire and life safety educator, changing the current requirement of 4 years AFD experience to current rank of senior firefighter. This other change is mirrors the language for assistant fire marshal. So as I said, the assistant fire marshal does fire inspections primarily as their job. The fire and life safety educator does not do fire inspections primarily, but they do fire inspections, and particularly with the fire inspections that are performed in school, because our fire and life safety educator has a strong relationship with our school systems. And so there, it's really important that they have that knowledge and certification to be able to assist those schools with those fire inspections, which take place every 6 months. And so instead of having that fire inspector for them to be able to do the job of fire and life safety educator, since they're not primarily doing fire inspections, they simply only need that fire inspector 1 with a probationary fire inspector level 2 certificate. There's a reciprocal opportunity if they have the fire inspector 1 course, plus the law and administration course, plus the probationary fire inspector level 2. It meets the same certification needs for them to be able to do that job. And again, like the other 2 positions we talked about, when there's not enough applicants, the committee felt that if technical rescuer and that fire inspector 1 was preferred and allowed to get after they're promoted, that would increase the applicant pool and not diminish the employee's ability to do their job at all. I'm going to skip over this safety and training officer and come back to it because it's slightly different than these other 4 that we're talking about. And I'm going to go down to the senior deputy fire marshal. So the senior deputy fire marshal is a supervisor within our fire marshal's office. Senior deputy fire marshal supervises these other 3 positions that we were talking about. And so the only change there is if there's not enough applicants that meet the minimum requirements to make that technical rescuer something that they could receive after they are promoted. So those four are very similar, so it might be a good time for me to pause and see if there's any question or if the board with discussion. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what is the role and responsibilities of a youth fire setter?
So the excellent question. So the youth fire setter course is training that's offered by the state of North Carolina. It's an actual certification. And so when a child is involved in intentionally setting a fire, there are some unique skills that are needed for intervention. And so someone who is trained in that youth fire setter training, and that's a probably not the best name. It's really youth fire setter intervention training is what it does. And so they work closely with that child and their parents and any of that child's support team that they may have, including school system. They work with the district attorney's office just to make sure that the correct intervention takes place so that behavior is changed.
Thank you.
Probably should be a better name.
Keith, I have a question too on the sort of the deferred, and by the way, it's Rick Devereaux talking, on the deferred requirements, the ones that would be shifted until after promotion. Is there like an end date on that? Like at what point will they be required, within a year or 2 years? And then sort of another question related to that, when it says when there are not enough applicants, does that mean when there are no applicants or not 2 applicants? Like what's enough?
So the criteria, so the first question is yes. So when that applicant is successful and is promoted, then I'm going to use the technical rescuer as an example. They would have in their letter of offer that says you are required to be certified as a technical rescuer 12 months from the date of the letter of offer. So it would be a minimum of 1 year for each of these. And there would be the exact date. So if we were to do that today, it would say by December 2nd, 2022, you must be certified as a technical rescuer. If you are not, then you will be demoted back to the position before. The exception to that minimum of 1 year would be a certification, and none are in this list here, but certainly there's some certifications that could, if there's a certification that's not offered, but occasionally, then that would be extended to 2 years or whatever appropriate time that's reasonable to make sure that the person could get that. But it would be a minimum of 1 year for the courses that are offered multiple times a year here in Asheville.
Okay.
And your second question is, so what that process has looked like in the past is, and of course we've done this in the past by taking a single position, coming to the Civil Service Board and just getting approval for that one process. So going forward, this would be automatic anytime that we didn't have enough applicants. And so what we've done in the past, and I think it would be good to spell this out so that it is clear to our employees and anyone that might be involved in the promotional process, is at the date of the deadline where those minimum requirements have to be met, which is the application deadline. If we have not enough candidates compared to number of vacancies, so let's say we have 5 vacancies and we only have 3 candidates, that would be considered not enough of how many current vacancies we have at that time. So it wouldn't be a guess or a projection. It would just be, we have a need, an operational need for these 5 folks to be in these jobs. We only have 3 that meet the minimum requirements. So now we're going to go and allow these other folks to participate. Also, what we've done in the past, which we would continue, is those who fully meet all of the minimum requirements, as long as they pass, regardless of their scoring, they would be placed at the top of the list. If somebody that didn't meet those requirements, they may have scored higher, but they would be,
Okay,
because they were minimum requirements. Yeah.
okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Chief Burnett for the 4 categories we've discussed? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the 4 minimum promotional requirements that Chief Burnett has just presented.
Mike Hahn, I'd make a motion that we accept those changes for those 4 positions.
Rick Devereaux seconds.
Is there any further discussion? And just for the record, Chief, I just want to make sure we're clear. Those are the changes you mentioned for Assistant Fire Marshal, Fire Investigator 1, Fire and Life Safety Educator, and Senior Deputy Fire Marshal. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. So hearing no further discussion, we can vote. Mr. Devereaux,
Aye.
Mr. Eskovitz,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So those changes have been accepted. Is there anything further, Chief?
Yes, ma'am. So there's another set of changes to a couple of positions, and one is the safety and training officer. The safety and training officer, we have 7 of those positions total, 2 per shift that are always on duty, and then we also have 1 that's assigned to our fire academy, and their responsibilities are just as they state for the safety of our employees and also for training our employees. So there's two changes here that only are needed to match the current requirements that the state of North Carolina Office of the State Fire Marshal has for certification. So to be a live burn instructor, which is an instructor that is able to train firefighters within live fire, the old requirement was that person had to be a fire instructor too. Now they only have to be, which is the same as before, it's just titled a little different. Now they have to be 5 years as a qualified firefighter instructor. To be a fire instructor too, you had to be 5 years as a qualified firefighter instructor. They changed that terminology, and so we just want to match that. And then also, we were before requiring by November 1st of 2023, because a couple of years ago we made that change because we wanted everybody to have that live burn instructor. Now it's only, you can get that within 2 years of promotion to safety and training officer, because what needs to happen is after those 5 years as a qualified firefighter instructor, to become a live burn instructor, you have to assist live burn instructors on a number, and it takes about a year, a little over a year in some cases, just depending on how many live fire opportunities we have. And so that really just matches the current requirements from the state of North Carolina.
Any questions for the chief on the proposed changes to safety and training officer? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the proposed changes to the safety and training officer position.
Alan Eskovitz, I move we approve those changes for the safety and training officer.
Is there a second?
Mike Hahn, I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the changes to safety and training officers. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then we can go ahead and vote. Mr. Eskovitz,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
Mr. Devereaux,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that change has been made as well. Any other changes, Chief?
Two more.
Okay,
and they are to our division chief levels. And so division chief, we have 7 division chief positions, and there's not a lot of vacancies at that level because it's a very high level within the department. And so we historically had an eligibility list every year that would be active for a year. And so often folks would be on that list, and there would not be any promotions off that list for an entire year. So they would do very well in the process, and there would be no promotion. So what we are recommending is, instead of having an eligibility list every year, to only do a process when we have a vacancy. And so it would be as needed. And then doing the same for the division chief that is assigned to the fire marshal's office, only rather than having the minimum requirements by having the list every single year, just to do it as needed. The only other change would be, currently, to participate in that process, you need to be a battalion chief for 1 year. And the recommendation is for any of our chief officers, any of our battalion chiefs, to be eligible to participate in that process. And again, it's not a lot of those positions, and not a very deep applicant pool, because it's coming from that battalion chief rank, and there's only 9 of those folks. So.
Any questions for the chief of the proposed changes to the position of division chief? Mr. Eskovitz?
No changes, and I recommend that we approve the changes for division chief.
Is there a second to the motion?
This is Carter Webb. I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the proposed changes to the position of division chief. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we can vote. Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Mr. Eskovitz?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Devereaux?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That motion carries. Chief, what's next?
That is all that I have for the board today. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you and all the work that your firefighters do here in our community.
Carol,
Yes.
got a quick question for the chief. Chief, is the department being challenged in any way with oncoming retirements, or are you meeting full force right now with your graduates through the academy and your current membership in the department?
So we are currently budgeted for 292 employees, and we currently have 287.
Mm-hmm.
That includes 19 that are in the academy that are being trained. So as far as folks that are in positions right now, we have 24 vacancies. 19 of those will be filled by the academy. We're getting ready to start another hiring process to start another academy. So to answer your question, we are not fully staffed today, but we're only 5 positions short, and we'll be doing an academy soon to replace those as well.
Are those positions at senior levels or below that rank?
Yeah, so the majority are non-firefighting positions. We have one is a business technology program manager, GIS, and 2 are assistant fire marshal positions, and 1 is a fire investigator position. So there's only 1 firefighter position that's vacant if you add the recruits that are in the academy.
Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Anything further for the chief? Thank you for your time, Chief. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Returning to the agenda, we're under new business C. Any updated city personnel policies?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I wanted to just share with the board an update on an interim policy that we have in place. As y'all probably know, the city has looked to Buncombe County for guidance since the beginning of the COVID pandemic on how best to safeguard the community and our employees. Our goal has been this whole time to keep our employees safe and do all we can to protect our residents as well. And in late summer, it became clear that COVID cases were increasing once again in Buncombe County, and we continue to have relatively high numbers. The county, as a result, instituted new policies and guidelines for their employees designed with safety in mind. And as we have throughout the pandemic, the city followed suit. So we established an interim COVID employee safety policy. And the goal of the policy is to prevent the spread of COVID and to keep employees safe while working. So the policy requires employees to comply with updated COVID protocols and guidelines while they're on duty or representing themselves as city employees. So all employees are required to wear masks. This follows the mask mandate that's still in place, but they're required to wear masks while they're in city buildings and vehicles. They can remove masks if they're inside a workplace or vehicle and at least 6 feet from others. There's some other exceptions, such as removing a mask while eating or drinking. We have also asked employees to provide vaccination verification, and those employees who are not vaccinated, we are requiring that they provide a negative COVID test weekly. So as a part of this policy, the key part that I wanted to just highlight for you all, share with you all today, is there is an accountability section. So if employees are found to be in violation of the interim COVID employee safety policy and the guidelines that go along with that, they may be subject to corrective action in alignment with our established disciplinary process. So wanted to draw that to the board's attention. There's no action you all need to take today, but since this is a new policy we have in place, wanted to make you all aware of it.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Barrett? Mr. Eskovitz?
Quick question. In part, are we being advised of this because it may reflect some future grievances that may be brought forth before the board?
It is possible because there are disciplinary actions that can occur around violations with this policy. We wanted to make you all aware of that.
Okay.
And Mr. Eskovitz, we've been planning on having this on the agenda for some time, just to give you an update in case cases did come this way. We want y'all to have a little bit of advance notice. I believe just yesterday, or maybe today, we received notice that someone has filed an appeal to this board on that is related to this policy. So we're not going to say too much more about it here. We don't want to try to
Sure.
Argue a case before it gets to you, but we did want to give you also advance notice that this is the city's policy. That's the very basic outline of it, and probably best for us not to say too much further now that an appeal has been filed.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Shannon.
Okay. Yes, thank you both. Mr. Devereaux?
Yeah, Shannon, one more question on that. Are we past any deadline for either vaccination or the weekly COVID testing? Does that apply to all employees at this point, or is there still a future deadline looming on that?
So it does apply to all employees at this point, and the testing requirement is ongoing while we are still under our current status and while the interim policy is in place.
Okay. Is there, just out of curiosity, is there either a religious or a medical exemption clause to that for the city?
And I can let John speak to that.
I can answer that, yes. If somebody does have a valid religious or medical exemption, that is something that we certainly consider. We did have a number of, and I'll say this broadly, so I'm not speaking to any specific employee, we did have some requests for religious exemptions. However, most of those were to being, a lot of the exemptions that we received were for, they took exception of being required to take a COVID vaccine. While our policy doesn't require that anybody take a COVID vaccine, it is that they be vaccinated or that they be tested on a weekly basis. So a number of those exemption requests were denied on that basis because there is an alternative to taking the vaccine built into the policy already.
And is that the weekly testing option, is that at the employee's expense or the city's expense?
It is at the, Jen, you can answer that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's at the employee's expense. However, we do have a site at Harrah's that is a free testing site that employees are eligible to take advantage of.
Okay, thank you.
Shannon?
Mhm.
Is that a quick test or is it a PCR?
I
A rapid
believe
test,
they're-
I should say, rapid
Yeah.
test, PCR.
I believe they're doing both. And we
What do you
have,
require of the employee, though?
we've opened it, we've expanded the, what we will, accept as an eligible test. So anything that, currently CDC supports, so rapid test and the PCR test, either one.
Okay.
Anything further on the updated personnel policy? Are there any other updates from the city?
No other updates at this time.
Okay, thank you. And next on the agenda would be public comment. Do we have anything, I guess that would come in on the chat or off YouTube?
We don't have any public comments.
Okay. And then next to last is informal discussion of any future agenda items. Is there anything that we need to discuss or look at setting? Okay, hearing none. If there's no other business to become before the board today, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Alan Eskovitz, I move that we adjourn to our next scheduled meeting.
Is there a second?
Rick Devereaux will second.
It's been moved and seconded. I assume there's no discussion. All in favor of adjourning until our next scheduled meeting, which is right now scheduled January 6th. Well, wait a minute. Did I get that right? Yes, January 6th at 2:30. All in favor? Mr. Eskovitz,
Aye.
Mr. Webb,
Aye.
Mr. Devereaux,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So the meeting is adjourned at 3:16 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays,
Happy
everybody.
holidays. Take care.